What is up, YouTube? Welcome to another video. Today I wanted to talk to you guys about how to mobilize your thoracic spine to help reduce stiffness in your upper back and potentially your neck. We know that there is a really strong correlation between our thoracic spine, which is this guy up here, it's T1 through T12, and neck pain and also shoulder pain and possibly shoulder impingement. There is a whole kind of symbiotic process that goes on between your cervical spine, your thoracic spine, and your shoulder joint. But today specifically, I'm going to be showing you guys some self-mobilizations that you guys can do for that thoracic spine to help relieve maybe upper back pain, stiffness, neck pain, stiffness, and work on shoulder mechanics. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the video. So I first wanted to talk about how the thoracic spine can affect your neck and also affect your shoulder. So that thoracic spine, as I mentioned before, it's going to be from T1, which is about here, down to T12. So somewhere along the bottom, right towards the end where you have your last rib, that's where your thoracic spine kind of ends. So if your thoracic spine, starts to be rounded in this position, then it is pushing your head just a little bit forward. And also my shoulder is now what the arm bone is doing in its socket, gliding up superiorly, and it's kind of anteriorly rotating, and it's doing this kind of dumping action, which is not a great position for the shoulder. If you then try to lift your arm from this position, I can't get it that far. So whenever your upper back is in that rounded position, there are a few things that are occurring. So rounded position. So first thing that's happening is, do you see my shoulder is kind of at an anterior tilt? It's rotating inward. So what's happening here is that these muscles in the front of your chest, mainly your pec, your pec and your biceps can get tight from this position. So that's getting tight. That's pulling your shoulder forward and rotating it inward. So now, whenever my shoulder's in this position, if I try to lift up my arm, what's happening is, one, it's restricting my motion a little bit. And two, it could be causing some impingement in some of you, because that internal rotation of the shoulder combined with the head of the humerus is also pushing up superiorly. The head of your arm bone starts to hit the top of your acromion, and it just kind of runs out of space within the joint to actually lift up all the way. So you're getting a little limitations within the glenohumeral joint itself, so right here in the shoulder, but also arm elevation, or lifting up our arm to the front and also out to the side. That also comes from mechanics in the shoulder blade. So whenever we assume this position, my shoulder blade is now spread out and open, and it has less advantage to help elevate my arm upward and out to the side. Last thing is that rounded spine tends to also push our necks forward into this position. And so what's happening here is that these bottom neck flexors are getting activated, they're turning on, but your upper neck extensors up here are also turning on, and you're pulling your head into this position. And this position often creates a lot of neck pain for those of us. I did make a separate video on how to kind of correct this position specifically for that cervical spine, so I'll link it below, and you guys can check that out if you notice that you have an issue with that. So back to the thoracic spine. So you could be in this rounded upper back position or this kyphotic position. It could be a little bit less extreme, and you could be relatively straight up and down, but still have a lot of stiffness in that thoracic spine area. So whether you have stiffness, you have difficulties moving in your upper back, or you have that rounded spine posture, These mobilizations are meant to help address that and help fix that. Another really important function of our thoracic spine is to gain extension. Upper spine flexion is going to look like this, where you're rounding over. Extension looks like this. Another really important thing to note is that it's going to change your mechanics during pushing and pulling exercises. Let's take this hair clip, super heavy hair clip for you guys. So if I have this rounded kind of posture, and it could be more exaggerated, it could be even just a little bit, and do you guys see my shoulder position naturally kind of changes? So now, if I wanted to bring my arm bone back, let me scoot a little bit away. If I wanted to bring my arm bone back and push something away, my arm bone is adducting a little bit. That means it's getting closer in towards my body. And that head of the humerus is kind of rotating downward. So in this position, some people can feel impingement or pain from this position whenever they are pushing, right? So this works for horizontal pushes like a bench press, and even more importantly, overhead pushes like a military press. So if you're pressing from this kind of rounded position, one, you most likely don't even have the range of motion to go completely overhead. So I'm in this position and my shoulder is kind of in that rotated down. Do you see how far my arm bone is down compared to if I roll my shoulders back? I have extension at my spine, and then my shoulder is down. It's not in that position. It's able to roll down. And now if I press up and overhead, my arm bone is all the way in line with my ear. So that position compared to rounded spine, forward, that position. It's so much harder for me to attain full shoulder flexion in that position. So it's really important whenever you guys are exercising in the gym, even if you feel like you don't have any neck pain or upper back pain, or maybe at first you don't feel like you have any shoulder pain, making sure that you are able to attain this position, extension in that upper back while you are pulling and pressing is really important for overall shoulder health and giving you a longer life in the gym. So let's adjust, and I'll show you guys some things that you can do for self-mobilization on that thoracic spine. We don't want to just stretch our upper back. Stretching isn't going to be that helpful in the long term. What's proven to be a little bit more helpful is either mobilization from a manual therapist who's licensed to do so. So since we don't have a manual therapist on hand, I'm going to show you guys something that's kind of second best, what you can do at home. All you're going to need is a foam roll. You could do this in a chair, but it is much better with the foam roll because the foam roll is going to provide you the proper amount of support, stability, and it's a little bit soft in here. So let me go ahead and show you guys what we're gonna do. All right, so the first exercise I want to show you guys is thoracic extension over the foam roll. So we are promoting that extended position in our thoracic spine whenever we do this, and the kind of slight pressure that we get to the joints themselves are helping them to be mobilized. So we're trying to kind of break up some of that stiffness that can happen inside those joints. So let me show you. We're trying to mobilize kind of from, if you grab the widest part, the bottom of your rib cage, the widest part, and bring your fingers in together. So anywhere from here to like up here. So there's that bony prominence that most of us have, that C7. We don't want to mobilize that. We want to mobilize a little bit lower. So in between here on your spine. So you're just gonna get your foam roll. You're gonna lean back at that bottom spot. Make sure that you are cradling your neck for support. You don't want your neck just hanging. That's pretty uncomfortable. And you don't want to be overusing your neck flexors either to hold your neck up, right? So we want our neck to be pretty in line with the rest of our spine, like so. That's in line, right? So you're gonna cradle your neck, and then you're gonna start to arc that upper back around the bolster. Like you're making your upper back into a rainbow. And then bring your ribs down and squeeze your belly button in to pull yourself back up. So I'm not moving and then dropping my neck back and then pushing my neck forward and then moving back up, okay? The neck should not move. You are moving from that upper spine. So arc back. Maybe your gaze is looking up at the ceiling. And now you're drawing your ribs down to the front of your thighs to come back up. Your abs are engaging a little bit to help pull you up. You're not just moving your neck, okay? That's pretty uncomfortable, and we don't want to exacerbate any symptoms that some of you may be having in your neck. So we can do 10 to 20 extensions over the foam roll, and then move the bolster a little bit higher, and now try it on another spot. So I'm gonna arc over the bolster and come back up. And you guys could do that to your whole thoracic spine or to a spot that seems particularly stiff. It's up to you. And you guys can do 10 to 20 repetitions of that on each segment. So let's do open books. So I'm gonna bring that bolster close to my body. I'm gonna bring my top leg and place it down on that bolster in a 90-90 degree. So my knee is in line with my hip and my ankle is in line with my knee. So from this position, I want you guys to apply a little bit of pressure down against the bolster. So this is gonna keep our pelvis from rotating back and forth as we move. We're trying to isolate rotation in our thoracic spine now. And if our pelvis is rotating, as I try to rotate, you're getting a false range of motion. So we want our pelvis to stay nice and stable so that our upper back is rotating around the stable base. So we're gonna tuck our shoulder underneath us. If any of you want to put a small pillow here or roll up a nice thick towel so that our neck stays neutral, let me see. Here, so that's pretty comfortable. Tuck that shoulder under. You're gonna start with your arms forward and directly in line with your shoulders. You don't want your arms up here, okay? Straight out in front. You're gonna bring your arm bone up towards the ceiling. You're gonna look at the arm bone. Make sure you're applying gentle pressure through that top leg down onto the bolster. And then you're trying to rotate your upper back. So you're trying to turn, 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 and then come back and close. So you want to make sure that your gaze is following your hand and that your rotation is truly coming from the thoracic spine. So once I get over here and say I can't move any further, I don't want to just drop my hand to the floor in like a fake sense of getting rotation, okay? Once my upper back won't move anymore, that's where you naturally stop. Come back down, hands together. You can do 5 to 10 times on each side. You could even do up to 20 times on each side if you wanted. Come back down here. So let me show you from the other way really fast. I'm gonna lift up, look at my hand, and I'm gonna rotate. I have good mobility, so I can get my shoulder blade all the way to the floor. So if anything, if you guys want any sort of marker, that might be a goal for some of you guys. For some of you, that might not be an achievable goal, and that's completely fine. You are working with your own body. So the goal is not how far your arm bone can come back, okay? If you rotate, 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 and you just let your arm fall back, that's not getting full rotation in that upper spine. So we're trying to get that arm bone and then turn, 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 turn. If you stop here, that's completely fine. And then just rotate back and let your palms touch. and close together. So those are open books, and that's a really great exercise to get rotation and movement in our thoracic spine. I also want to show you guys another rotation that you can do. Using that bolster, I'm going to place one hand to the inside of the bolster. I'm going to place the back of my hand onto that bolster, and I'm going to push the bolster out away. And same thing, I'm rotating, I'm lifting my right armpit towards the ceiling and pushing my left armpit towards the bolster, and then come back up. I am letting this arm bend. If it doesn't bend, then I'm not gonna get a lot of rotation. I'm gonna be stuck or limited there, right? So I'm gonna let this arm bone bend and slide that bolster away from me, rotate, 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 rotate. And that might feel really good for some of you guys. Come back up. Same thing, you guys could do anywhere from 5 to 20 reps for that one. The last thing I'm gonna show you is to do a pec stretch over the foam roll. So the pec stretch is super great because whenever you have that rounded upper back, this position, what happens is we get some maladaptive shortening of our pec muscles and maybe even our bicep muscles. But our pec muscles need to be stretched and released. Otherwise, if our pecs are shortened, they're pulling our arm bone inward, they're pulling us into kind of this kyphotic position, and then it's going to be harder to achieve spinal extension because these muscles need to stretch in order to accomplish that. So we're going to stretch these and try to release those a little bit. An even better idea is to foam roll those pecs first and then to stretch over the bolster. Then you can do those mobilizations. So then you could do the extension over the foam roll, the rotation over the foam roll, and then maybe that other rotation one that I showed you. So if you guys wanted to foam roll the pecs, you can just place that comfortably. You're trying to make contact with kind of the edge of the bolster and kind of here front in the shoulder. So it could be down here, could be a little bit higher, and you're trying to make contact there. So I'm going to show you on this arm bone. And then you just apply pressure. So you go, you apply pressure, you kind of roll forward, maybe roll backward in super small movements. See what might feel stiff. I'm gonna angle this a little bit differently. My pecs aren't particularly tight right now. Once you find a spot that's a little bit tender, hold that spot for anywhere from 30 seconds to 120 seconds and just hold it. Great. So after you've done that, then you can just come onto the bolster. Your tailbone to the base of your skull should be supported on the bolster. And then we're going to take these cactus arms. So wrist in line with your elbow, elbow in line with your shoulder. It might be a little bit lower, and you're going to let your arm bones fall back. And a lot of you might feel a really nice stretch right here in the front of your chest. So if my arm bones can't comfortably touch the floor, you might want to place a pillow and have some sort of support. So have some sort of support for your arm bone. So let me show you. So cactus is this position. Sorry guys. I can't change too lazy to change the camera angle, so that's that. Okay, far away. Down. Okay, so I'm supported. So cactus, if my arm bones can't touch, my neighbor just loves to play with his motorcycle. So if your arm bones can't comfortably touch the floor, like so, then you might want to use a little support. So that could be a pillow, it could be a rolled up towel, and have a little support for your arm bone. And that's completely fine. As long as you still feel like you're getting a stretch up here in the chest, That's what matters. There you go. That's your chest stretch. Okay, so I want to reiterate those protocols for you guys. First up is to foam roll the pecs. So anywhere from here, this area, maybe somewhere in the front of your shoulder is gonna feel really good. Foam roll that. Once you find a spot that's more tender, it just feels really good, just apply a little bit more pressure and hold that pressure for 30 seconds to 120 seconds, wherever you feel that release. Then you're gonna do your cactus stretch over the bolster. Also hold that anywhere from 30 to 120 seconds until you feel a nice kind of release happening in that front chest. And then you're gonna go into your mobilizations. So the foam roll extension, you can do anywhere from 10 to 20 reps, arcing over that bolster, and then rotation in the form of those open book exercise. And that could be anywhere from 5 reps to 20 reps in each direction. And then if you guys wanted another little rotation one, you guys have that extra rotation, and that's the same, 5 to 20 reps per side. So I hope you guys really enjoyed this video and found it helpful. Please let me know in the comments below if you tried any of these out, if you found them helpful. I would love to hear about it. And please give me a like and subscribe. I should be posting more videos that are very similar to this kind of content in the future. So please look out for them, and I'll catch you guys in another video.